How's it going, everyone? I am back with another video. This is going to be my Week 15 score predictions video, where I'm going to go through all the NFL games taking place over the weekend, and break down my score predictions, talk about how I think the games are going to go, all that good stuff. So, dive straight in here. So, the first game is the Thursday night game taking place tonight. It's the Falcons at the Bucks. I'm going to go with Tampa here, 24-17. It should be an entertaining game. These teams played on Thursday night last year, and obviously completely different scenarios. Both teams were rolling entering that game. It was a shootout. Kirk Cousins had over 500 passing yards, and they won in overtime off in a thriller. Jesus, can't talk. In a thriller of a game. Yeah, not the case entering the game here. Both teams are struggling. I mean, the Falcons, they've hit a Falcons type of season. Some ups, a lot of downs, and a lot of the downs very well could be fixed. They could be ups. They have lost some games they probably should have won. The Indy game probably should have beaten my team, the Patriots, honestly. They don't get that intentional grounding call, although they probably would have found another way to bully them. Who knows? And then the Jets game, they should have won that game too. So multiple games Falcons should have won. They're tied at half of the Seahawks last week. Then they get the doors blown off them in the second half. And Tampa, they started off the season hot and have hit a skid since then. It feels like that happens every year with Todd Bowles, the head coach. His seat's starting to heat up. If they don't win the division, they seriously, I think, need to consider moving on from him, even though they just signed him to an extension in the offseason. So that'll be interesting. But they're not playing well either. They've only beaten the Cardinals, and they narrowly lost that game too. And the Cardinals are a complete disaster right now. So, with the exception of that win against the Cardinals, they haven't won since they started off the season red hot. It's 6 wins, and they're tied with Carolina record-wise. I think they get the lead over them right now, technically, because the tiebreakers, but they're tied with the Panthers record-wise for the division. So both these teams are entering this game not playing great football. But with all that being said, I'm still going to take Tampa, as I mentioned initially. I don't know. Tampa hasn't been playing great, but I think they've been playing a bit better than the Falcons. They know they need to win this game. They need to start stockpiling some wins so they can win the division over the Panthers. They know that. Atlanta just playing worse football. Tampa's defense has been bad lately. I think they'll play a better game in this one against a struggling Falcons offense. Without Drake London, he's been an absolute killer for the Bucks in years past. So I think Tampa's defense steps up. They play a good game. The Falcons' offense has been a mess most of the year. Zach Robinson's another person that needs to be fired. I think their defense plays well. Their offense, I think it kind of struggles. It's kind of an ugly 24 points. They have a couple good drives, but I think for the most part, Atlanta's defense plays a solid game, keeps them in it. Atlanta's got a solid defense. I know they've had some rough outings this year. Last week, the second half of the Seattle game I mentioned earlier is a recent example. But Atlanta's got a solid defense, especially pass defense. Tampa's offense not been great, even though they're getting a bit healthier. Mike Evans might come back shortly here. Chris Godwin has been back. Actually, when the hell is Mike Evans supposed to be back? I know. I think it was possible he would play this game. Let's see. I can't believe he's even almost back. I thought he was going to be out for the year, or at least, and maybe if they make the playoffs, or maybe week 17, 18, something like that. But this early is crazy. Mike Evans is questionable. Well, yeah, if he plays, that'll be a bit of a boost for Tampa, you have to imagine, obviously. With Mike Evans or without him, I'm still going to roll the Bucks here. Obviously, it'll be, again, a boost if Mike Evans plays, but I'll go with the Bucks. I think they're playing better football, must win. They're the better team. At home, primetime Tampa. I think Tampa has this one. They're 5.5-point favorites. So I'll go with Tampa here. Atlanta, if they do win the game, I could see Bijan having a good game. They probably should have beat Tampa week 1. They kind of blew that game. I feel like they outplayed Tampa for a bit and then choked the game in typical Falcons fashion. Younghoe Koomas in the kick at the end there too. That helped. That helped Tampa with the win, obviously. But yeah, I could see Bijan going up. Like I said, I do think their defense is going to keep them in it. Could, play a really good game, help them win. New Orleans, their defense played good. They stopped the Bucs on third and fourth down a bunch. That's another key for Atlanta to steal the game. If New Orleans can beat Tampa, Atlanta can't. Because Atlanta's better than New Orleans. So I'm confident with the Bucs, but I wouldn't be shell shocked if Atlanta pulled this one off. So I'll go with them. Tampa 24-17. Should be an entertaining Thursday night game. This should also be an entertaining game. Baltimore and Cincy. This is a coin flip game for me. The Bengals, to me, I know record wise they're worse, but right now Cincy is playing better football than Baltimore to me. I know Baltimore was on a 5-game win streak recently. Now they've lost 2 in a row, including the Bengals 2 weeks ago on Thanksgiving. But even during that win streak, their offense was not playing great. Lamar didn't look great, and he hasn't looked great. Now that they're losing, it's getting more attention, obviously. And like I just said, since he beat them 2 weeks ago on Thanksgiving, and not only did they beat them, they controlled the game and they dominated it. The Ravens defense in that game kind of kept them in it for a while, was holding Cincy to a lot of field goals, not letting them score touchdowns in the red zone. But eventually, they just had too many possessions since he took advantage and ended up basically blowing the Ravens out. Now, Cincy is not mathematically eliminated, but pretty much they are. It's going to take beyond a miracle for them to make it. Baltimore is still playing for the division, even though they lost. They very well could easily win the division still. Obviously, they'll have that in mind. So basically, there's more up for grab for Baltimore in this game. But then you can argue that Cincy basically has nothing to lose, so you don't have anything to lose. That's the worst type of team to play, you can argue. Especially the Bengals are much better than a typical 4-win team. Um, yeah, in Cincy, obviously that's going to be a bit of a boost for the Bengals there. Bengals should have had it. They should have beat the Bills. Again, the Bengals, like I said, are much better than a typical 4-win team, especially the offense. Now, I am going to pick Baltimore here because I think this is the game I don't want to say they click back in here. I think they win, but the offense isn't, like the typical Lamar Ravens-led offense we're used to. In that game against Cincy, it felt like the Ravens were getting the run game going. They just were down in multiple scores, and they're turning the ball over. So they had to kind of commit to the pass game more than they probably would have liked to. And, well, again, even though the Bengals defense by far played its best game of the year against them on Thanksgiving, they did get some kind of fortunate turnovers that I don't think are going to be happening again. And Baltimore was right there for a majority of the game, even with those turnovers in mind. So Ravens, more to play for. Cut out those sloppy turnovers. Your defense, even though they allowed 30-plus in that Thanksgiving matchup, I think they played well enough to win that game. Just so many possessions to the Bengals, especially, I know they didn't have T. Higgins. They probably won't have him in this game, if I had to guess, too. It's still a high-powered offense, but they held on for a while. So cut out those turnovers, more to play for. I think Henry is a big game. The run game gets going. Cincy's defense kind of returned back to form last week after it was playing a bit better. So I'm going to go with Baltimore here. Coin flip game. I would not bet the spread in this game, although if Baltimore does win, they very well could cover. Cincy, again, they very well could easily win. We just saw what they did 2 weeks ago, even though I don't think their defense is going to play that well again. If it's a shootout, I very well could see the Bengals scoring a lot more. Not a lot more, but I could see them scoring more than 24 very easily. The defense, even though it played bad against the Bills, it had its moments where it looked decent, and the Ravens offense struggling. I could see that being a bit of a factor in the game why Cincy could pull it off. But if they do, I think it'll just be because their offense pops off. Chase probably goes off. Burrow goes off. So very realistic. Cincy could win the game. But I'll go 27-24 Baltimore. Should be entertaining, though, like most games between these teams. And going back to the Thursday game, have Tampa covering that 5.5 point spread, but I probably wouldn't bet it simply because Tampa's been so sloppy lately, and then the Falcons. I just avoid betting on their games entirely because who the hell knows with that team? Oh boy. The Raiders and the Eagles. Well, this is exactly what the Eagles need to play arguably the worst team in football. It's between them and the Titans, I would say. And the Titans just won. So I think there's a legit, and I know the Raiders beat the Titans early in the year, but I think you can make a legitimate argument that the Raiders at the moment are the worst team in football. I don't think they are, but you can make an argument. Anyway, the Eagles' offense has been a disaster for most of the season, and now that they're on a losing streak, it's getting more attention. The defense has single-handedly won them at least 2 games, and you can make an argument 3. It's the Tampa game; they literally did not do anything outside of 1 touchdown that they got off a questionable Bucky Irving fumble call in the second half. Their offense did absolutely nothing. Their defense held on for them, and the week 1 game against the Cowboys, their defense held on late, even though they probably got a bit lucky with the CD Lamb drops. Their special teams bailed them out against the Rams, blocking 2 fourth-quarter field goal kicks, and the defense single-handedly won them the Packers and the Lions games. So Philly, even though they have 8 wins, they very easily, and I was talking about this in my Week 14 recap video, they very easily could have a much worse record. Now, vibes are down for the Eagles. Their offense is a mess. Hurts turned it over 400,000 times against the Chargers last week. Just a mess of a game. Just thought they still had it. But with that being said, it's something encouraging for the Eagles, and their defense played phenomenal in that game, like it has lately for the most part. They're the Dallas game. That's another one that up 21 up, and the offense does nothing the rest of the game. So yeah, now I just that point just sidetracked me. What the hell is I say? Yes, so the offense is a mess. So that's something encouraging for the Eagles. Your offense is that bad, and you still nearly had the game. So that's something encouraging for the Eagles. I don't think they'll be turning it over 5+ times again in this game. The Raiders are a disaster. I will say though, Kenny Pickett. Now I don't think they're going to change the offense with Kenny Pickett starting, but I honestly think it might be better for them at the moment to put Pickett in the game. He looked decent. I know it was garbage time when he came in pretty much, but he looked decent, had a zinger of a touchdown pass against Denver. And I mean, Geno's been a disaster this year. Why the hell not? I know they're not playing Geno because of an injury, but why the hell not start Kenny Pickett the rest of the season? Like, seriously. At least start in this game, see what happens, and then after that, determine who the starter is the rest of the season. But I do think Kenny Pickett may give the Eagles, or the Raiders rather, well, former Eagle, I guess, Kenny Pickett, Super Bowl champion with the Eagles, Kenny Pickett. I think he could give the Raiders a bit of a boost, maybe for at least a couple drives, their first couple initial drives, and then when the Eagles get a beat on what they're doing, I think they'll borderline shut them down. I think Philly's defense plays another great game here, makes it a rough Raiders starting debut for Pickett. I really don't see how the Raiders offense gets too much going in this game. I think Philly's offense is another ugly game if they get the job done. It's probably close early on, and the defense keeps stopping them, and then the Raiders' defense can only hold them for so many times. So I think it'll be an ugly win for Philly. They're 11.5 point favorites. I wouldn't bet that spread simply because even though the Raiders are a disaster, I don't know how you can bet 11.5 on this Eagles team. They've been a disaster themselves the past couple weeks, at least their offense. So I think it'll be an ugly offensive game for Philly. Defense wins it. I'll say 23-14 Philly. If Vegas somehow pulls this upset off, I don't know where you go from here with Philly if they somehow lose this game. I do think the Raiders' defense is a bit better than what most people would think about it now. So I do think they'll be able to keep them relatively within reach. Maybe my gut is kind of telling me Brock Bowers may pop off. That'd be big for Philly, or I don't know why I keep mixing this up here, for Vegas. But I don't know. I don't really see it. So I'll go Philly 23-14, but certainly not bet that spread with how bad the Eagles have been, though. Arizona and Houston. Yep, gonna go with the Texans here. Arizona against this Houston defense, I think that's going to be an absolute disaster. Now, Brissett has actually been serviceable. He's been fine with the Cardinals, but just so many injuries. Their defense, they're down 100 points like every game, it feels like. This Houston defense, I think, is going to play great, make it a rough game for Arizona and Brissett and company. I just, I don't know. I just can't pick against the Texans, especially right now with their defense, especially with the opponent being the Cardinals, and especially with it being in Houston. Houston obviously has a lot more to play for compared to the Cardinals. Cardinals season is over. They're still competing for the division, Houston. They're right there with the Jaguars and technically the Colts, because I don't think the Colts will get it, except who the hell knows if Philip Rivers at least going to look. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I do think Arizona's defense will play a decent game. I think the Texans' offense will kind of be like it has been most of the year. Some decent drives, some ugly looking drives. But I think they'll put together harder than 24 points. Arizona's defense keeps them in it, but Houston's defense wins them the game, like has been the case for most of the Texans' wins this season, especially on this win streak. So I'll go Houston here. If Arizona somehow pulls it off, I mean, the Texans are due for a bad game and a loss. So maybe it's here. Arizona is bad, but they have strung together some decent performances where they've been close. They almost upset Jacksonville a couple weeks ago. So they are due for a win. I think, I don't know, they're going to have to get some weird things to happen. Defense may force some turnovers, maybe some deep shots, some PI calls, things like that to go Arizona's way. It's just going to have to be a random game. But I'll go with Houston 24-16. 9.5 is a bit of a big spread for me with Houston's offense being lackluster. But they very well could cover it. I wouldn't bet it, but I'll go Houston get the dub here. Chargers Chiefs. This is a really tough game for me to pick. I was super back and forth on this game. Now, the X's and O's honestly kind of suggest the Chargers should win this game. However, I'm going to go with the Chiefs here. They're 5.5 point favorites. That line, I very well could see a scenario where the Chiefs just hammer the Chargers and win convincingly. It's an ugly loss to the Chargers, and then it's like, all right, are the Chiefs going to make another playoff push? Are they going to be back? Who the hell knows? Although they would, I mean, it's very unlikely they make it. They have to win out, have the Chargers borderline lose out, have Indy borderline lose out. They need a bunch to happen to go their way. Um, I don't think they'll make it. Hopefully not, at least, even if they win out. But if they lose this game, I think mathematically they'll still be in it, but they'll be on life support if they aren't already for the playoff hopes. But Kansas City, it's one reason I almost took the Chargers is because part of my logic for picking the Chiefs is, well, it's a must win for them. Well, last week was a must win for them and they lost. Denver, that game wasn't a must win, but it was critical they lost. Basically, a lot of people, and I've kind of been with them just because of the Chiefs' recent pedigree, have been picking Kansas City because it's big games, must win games, and they've been losing most of them. The only game they won recently was against Indy, and that game they got a bit fortunate because they're down 11 points in the fourth quarter and had to come back to win in overtime, even though I do think they probably outplayed Indy, especially in that fourth quarter in overtime. The Chargers, we saw week one, and week one, weird things can happen, especially divisional games. You don't want to base too much off it, and it was in Brazil. The Chargers outplayed them thoroughly. I know they only won by a couple points, but the Chargers thoroughly outplayed the Chiefs. And the Chiefs were a lot better then than they are now. Actually, they're kind of the same, you can say. They started off 0-2. They lost Philly the week after that and still weren't great, even when they beat the Giants. The Chargers are a bit worse, but at the moment, I think the Chargers, even though it's been ugly, they're playing better football than the Chiefs. But I don't know. Kansas City, I know they've lost some must-win games, but I don't know. My gut's telling me they randomly put together a good performance. The offense clicks in gear. They have a really good game. The defense, I think, is going to make it a rough game for Herbert and company, force a lot of stops. I do think the Chargers put together a couple drives, maybe some deep shots, some open receivers, some very efficient drives. They put up a decent amount of points in this game. I have them scoring 23, but I think the Chiefs defense gets some clutch stops. Chiefs offense is a good game, and the Chiefs get a basically season-saving win. at least for the time being. So I'll say 27-23. Again, I could see a weird scenario where the Chiefs really hammer the Chargers and win by more than one score. If the Chargers win this game, which again is very possible and should be probably what happens if you look at the X's and O's from that standpoint, I do think it'll be close to the Chargers win. I don't really see them winning by more than one score. Their defense very well could win them the game. Minter, I've always been a big fan of him. I say it whenever I'm talking about the Chargers in my videos. Michigan fan, so I've liked Jesse Minter since his days there, and obviously Jim Harbaugh. But their defense alone, I mean, the Chiefs' offense has been a mess lately. The Chargers' defense, we very well could see a great game and execution from the Chargers. Their defense could win them the game alone. Maybe Herbert, he always plays well against the Chiefs, it seems like. Maybe that he's got some reps under him a full game, full game, 4 quarters and overtime. Some reps there with his broken hand. Maybe he's a bit more comfortable his second game with it. I could see their offense playing well, scoring more than this, but I don't know. Chiefs, I'll go with them. Very uneasy. Would certainly avoid that spread, but I'll go with Kansas City 27-23 here. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Bills, Patriots. So let me start off with the fact that the Bills being favored is absolutely ridiculous. But you know what? I'm glad they are. I'm glad they're favored because now we can go into this game with the underdog mentality. And Vrabel hasn't really talked too much about it. He's been asked about it, but he's kind of just said, like, oh, well, I just saw it. I don't really believe that. I think Vrabel saw that and immediately put it on the bulletin board for the team as motivation. Like, I I don't understand how this Bills team is favored. A, we've been playing better football. B, we are tied record wise for the most wins in the entire NFL with Denver at 11. C, we beat Buffalo already early in the year. And D, the Bills this season have not been nearly as good as they have in years past. I mean, they got lucky to beat Cincy last week. They get 2 fluke turnovers, especially the pick six, or else they lose that game. They were thoroughly outplayed for most of that game. And the Bengals, even though that was a sloppy game, we led. Well, we were down 10-0. Then from there, once Marcus Jones got that pick six and it was 14-10, we led the rest of the game and outplayed them, even though it was sloppy and we barely held on. So again, it's a week-to-week league. That's not the best way to judge it. And I will say, I know we did get some things to kind of go our way. That Buffalo game, seems in a brutal fumble. Actually, I'm going to knock on wood with my desk here. He's been pretty good with his fumble issues since then. So I'm going to knock on wood again for him here that keeps up. But yeah, the Bills were a bit sloppy in that game. We didn't play our best game either, and that was kind of just when we were turning the corner into playing the great football we have been since that game. Actually, the last time we lost was week 3 to the Steelers. Our win streak started against the Bills, now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, Buffalo, especially their defense, has been a mess most of this year. I mean, outside of that Jets game, and I guess the Steelers game 2 weeks ago, their defense has been a mess all season. I cannot, not to mention they're on the road. So how the hell is this team favored over us? But like I said, I'm glad they're favored over us because that's bulletin board material. Diggs talked about it in the locker room yesterday, how he's glad they're underdogs because now it's more motivation. So you know what? Good. I'm glad we're underdogs. I would not be surprised if that line changes to us being favored like a half a point or a point or something like that over the next couple of days. But as of now, Buffalo is favored. Now, that being said, I am nervous for this game. I'm by no means going into this game thinking it's a slam dunk, it's a layup, easy win. That is not my mindset at all. I would not be surprised if we lose this game. I think this game is borderline a coin flip game. I'm going to pick my team, of course, to get the dub. I have it being close 27-24. I think regardless of which team wins, it's going to be close. I don't see either team winning by more than one score. I'd be surprised if that was the case. But I'm I'm going with my team. Vrabel off the bye is undefeated, including he blew out Buffalo. Um, I don't. I think he blew out Buffalo. Yeah, he blew out Buffalo. What year was it? Was it the COVID year 2020, or I think it might have been the COVID year? I want to say he blew out, and again, that was years and years ago. That was in Buffalo was just starting to be like the elite team that they have been since then. But the Bills finished 13-3 that year, and Mike Vrabel blew them out coming off the bye. And Vrabel with the Bills, with his history in the Titans, they had that one disaster of a game in 23, but he also upset them in the 21 season. So he's had some success against Josh Allen and the Bills. And of course, not to mention, we already beat them earlier in the year in Buffalo. Now, the stakes are extremely high in this game. If we win the division. So the players, of course, are very well aware of that. And then, not to mention, I guess that it would clinch our goal of winning the division. And then we can focus on being the one seed. So stakes are high. The players know that on both sides, but the Patriots, you can argue, are playing for more because Buffalo knows they're going to need some things to go their way if they somehow sneak away with the division. They know that they're likely going to get in as a wild card rather than a division winner at this point. So even though the stakes are high for Buffalo, I would argue they're higher for my team because Denver, we don't have the tiebreaker over them. If we lose, although Denver's game against the Packers could go either way too, I'll talk about that in a bit. That's even going to hurt our chances more for the one seed. And then Buffalo will only be a game back of the division. And depending on how the rest of the year pans out, who the hell knows? I think we'll win it either way if we lose this game. But again, I'm picking us to win. I do think the Bills' offense has a good game here. I am a bit concerned about how our run defense has not been too good since Milton Williams has been out, and the Bills love to run the shit out of the ball. James Cook has been going off lately, so I am a bit nervous there. I think the Bills' offense plays a good game. However, I think what wins us the game is our offense. Like I said, the Bills' defense has been a disaster. And we're coming off the bye. I think our offense is efficient. They play a clean game. It's borderline a shootout. I know not like the highest score for shootout, but I think it'll kind of be like methodical long drives for the team. So that's why I have it being a bit low, more low scoring than a typical shootout. Um, but I think our defense, I simply trust our defense to get more stops than the Bills' defense with how both sides of the ball for each team have been playing. And again, coming off the bye, Vrabel's undefeated. I could see a scenario if Buffalo does win this game. I could see a scenario where their defense clicks it in gear and plays very well. It feels like in games like that are big time games, their defense does tend to play well, at least in the regular season. So I could see that in our offense maybe coming out sluggish after the bye. We could be rusty after the bye. That could help the Bills, obviously, especially in a tight game like I'm predicting here. But yeah, the Bills, James Cook going wild, their defense playing a good game, and Josh Allen going superhero mode could very well win them the game. But again, coming off the bye, extra week to prepare. Already beat the team. We're playing better football. The Bills' defense has been bad. Our offense has been good. Our defense has been good. Bills' offense it's been good when Josh Allen goes in superhero mode, but it feels like whenever the Bills win, he needs to go into superhero mode most of the time. So I don't know. He could do it on a game to game basis, but is he going to be able to do it every single game, every single week? And it's not every week, like the Pittsburgh game. He didn't need to do it, but hopefully you get the point. So game could go either way. I'm uneasy about it. Not gonna lie, would not be surprised if we lost, but I really hope we win the game just to ease my nerves. Because if we lose this game, I'm gonna start to be a bit nervous that we're the division is. I think we'll win it, but I am gonna start to worry a bit. So hopefully we can just win this game. I'll go 27-24, but could go either way. Cannot wait to see this game though. Well, coming off that game, here's a game that I think pretty much everyone will be picking Jaguars. Jets, Jaguars. Yep. Well, give me the Jaguars. And they are 13.5 point favorites. I would not have believed the Jaguars over anyone would be 13.5 point favorites going into the year. So that's insane. They've overexceeded pretty much everyone's expectations, I think, this year. Jaguars at home. I excuse me. I think they're going to take care of business convincingly. Sorry, I'm getting a text here. I think they'll take care of business convincingly. The Jets are a disaster. I'm going to assume either Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields are going to start, but if it's Brady Cook, this could be even worse. The Jags defense has been playing well lately, forcing turnovers. Jets just been a disaster. They're off. It feels like last week they kind of came back down to earth after they were playing a bit better football from the trade deadline. So I think the Jags defense plays great. Maybe get some turnovers. They really limit the Jets offense. The Jags offense, I think it is a pretty efficient game. I think the Jets defense makes a decent amount of stops, make the score like within, like two to like the low three end of scores most of the game. I don't think the Jags. I could see the Jags offense going off even more than this, but I think they'll stay relatively like within the mid to high 20s range in this game. Maybe take their foot off the gas. They get a bit sloppy. I could see that. So yeah, I'm of course going with Jacksonville. They're the division leaders right now. They need to keep winning with Houston as red hot as they are. They also split with Houston, so it's even more important they keep winning. They know that. The Jets, if they somehow pull it off, their special teams have actually been good lately. So maybe they get some special teams plays, some special team scores would help. They've been doing that the past few games. The defense, I do think, will play okay in this game, but the offense is going to have to do more than I'm expecting. But I'm not expecting it to happen. I'll go Jacksonville here 27-13. Yeah, should be. I don't know if I'd bet that spread because it's a big spread. Maybe a backdoor cover for the Jets. But Jags money line should be looking good this game. I also, would not bet that 1.5 spread for the Bills in our game against them because the game could go either way. Okay. Washington and the Giants. I'm gonna go with the Giants here. This is a coin flip game for me, but I don't know. Washington, they look good 2 weeks ago against Denver, and then it was a complete disaster against them against the Vikings last week. The J.J. McCarthy led Vikings. It was a complete disaster for Washington. The Giants coming off the bye, they get an extra week to prepare. Yes, they're bad. They're pretty much a disaster this year, but they're better than a typical 2-win team. I think they can. Actually, how many? Do they have 2 or 3 wins? No, they have 2 wins, right? Let me double check. Excuse me here. Yeah, they're 2-11. They're better than a typical 2-win team. The Commanders, they're also better than a typical 4 wins they have. Well, I have the division pulled up. Let me double check that. 3 wins. They're 3-10. But yeah, both these teams I think they're disasters, but I think they're better than teams typically with those poor records at this point in the year. We saw Washington upset. Well, not upset. They beat the Giants week 1 pretty convincingly, 21-6, if I remember right. The Giants' offense was a mess that game. Defense kept them in it, but Commanders won pretty convincingly, controlled from the start of the game to the end. But I don't know. Giants coming off a bye, extra week to prepare. To me, they're playing better football lately. They didn't play good against my team, but against the Lions, they almost upset them. They should have upset a lot more teams in games they blew. It should have obviously beat Denver, for example. They're playing okay ball right now. Dart and company, I think they have a good day offensively. I could see that. The Giants defense, I think they have a decent game. Looks like they're going to be going against Mariota. I think Jane Daniels is out this game. Should just keep him out the rest of the season at this point, in my opinion. I don't know. Coin flip game for me. Could see it going either way. Hard to get a read on either of these teams, especially Washington. Like I said, disaster last week. Then they probably should have beaten Denver 2 weeks ago. Now, Washington, if they do win the game, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I could see the offense playing good, and my gut is kind of telling me their defense plays a really good game and limits the Giants. It's an ugly offensive game. I could see that. Mariota's been good for Washington this year. So both these teams are due for a win. It could go either way. A lot of logic suggests Commanders, but I don't know. Giants, I'll go with them. I just think they've been playing a bit better football than the Commanders have lately. And they're at home, so off the bye. I'll go with them 23-20. Would certainly avoid that spread, though. Browns Bears, interesting game. I'm definitely going to go with the Bears here. I would certainly avoid that 7.5 point spread. That's a big spread for well, I mean the Browns are a disaster, but that's a big spread for me with this particular game to feel comfortable with. They very well could cover. Actually, I have them covering it with my score prediction. I could see the Bears just blowing the doors off Cleveland and putting up more points in this, but I think Cleveland's defense, like many games this year, they had a bad game last week against Tennessee. I think they bounce back here. I think their defense keeps them in it. They play a solid game. Chicago's offense has been up and down most of the season. I think that's kind of the case here. Bit of an up and down game. Cleveland's defense plays well. I think Cleveland's offense, they get, a heavy amount of field goals this game. But for the most part, I think the Bears defense plays good. You can move the ball on it, but they get timely turnovers. Maybe they get some here. I just can't pick Cleveland, especially coming off a loss at home against the Titans. I don't know how you go from that to upsetting the Bears on the road. And the Bears, they got to start winning because they're the 7 seed right now. They went from the 1 to the 7 seed. They're competing for the division. Perfect bounce back opportunity against an awful Browns team here. So, like I said, Cleveland's defense could keep them in it. The offense, maybe they move the ball, avoid some turnovers, get touchdowns instead of field goals, finish in the red zone. Those are some keys for Cleveland to pull off the upset. But I'll go with Chicago 24-16. I think they bounce back, get a close win here, but I could see them blowing them out, honestly. Carolina and New Orleans. Big game here for the Panthers. Obviously, the Saints are out of the division at this point. But Carolina, they are right there with Tampa for the division, with Tampa's mid-season collapse. Now, I am back and forth on this game because the Panthers really should win this game, and honestly, you can say they should win the game convincingly. However, New Orleans, their defense has been playing some solid football lately. It's been under the radar because the Saints have been a disaster, but they've been playing some solid football lately. And they also played a great game against this same Panthers team in Carolina, and they pulled off the upset. So there definitely is a logic that's just the Saints can win. And again, being at home, Shough has been decent. The Saints defense, they basically shut Carolina down the first time. I don't think they'll shut them down. They could play well enough for them to win again. Shough, I could see the offense playing good. So there's definitely some logic that suggests New Orleans could win the game. However, I am going to go with the Panthers. I think they bounce back from their initial loss against the Saints. They capitalize on the division being right there for them for the taking. I think their defense plays good. It's kind of been surprisingly better than most people thought it would this season. Certainly me. They've had some rough outings, but for the most part, it's been good. I think they play good here. That's going to be the reason they win the game because I think New Orleans' defense plays solid and the Panthers' offense I don't think goes crazy. I think they gut it out, grind it out, get a hard-earned 23 points, get a close dub here. So I'm going to go with Carolina 23-17. They're favored by 3. I think they'll cover that. I have them winning by 6, but it's tough to bet because I very well could see the Saints pulling off the upset here. So I'll go with Carolina 23-17. Should be an entertaining game to see how it plays out. Lions-Rams. This should be an entertaining game. I think this is going to be a shootout. Both defenses have not been playing too great lately, more so the Lions. I think I'm picking the Rams because I think Stafford is going to feast on this Lions defense. I think they go off. The Lions have just been banged up in the secondary all year. Their defense is like the definition of mid. I think it's like 15th or 16th overall. So it's like pretty much dead center. It is 16th. It's literally dead center in the league. The Rams are red hot. They had their sluggish kind of due for a loss type of game against Carolina, and they still nearly won that game. Got back on track against the Cardinals last week. Stafford was slinging it. He looked fantastic like he is most of the season. I think him, Adams, Nakua, the whole offense pops off here. On the same end, though, I do think the Lions' offense is a good game too. I think they keep up with the Rams, but I simply trust the Rams' defense more than the Lions' defense in this game, especially it being in LA. So I'm going to pick the Rams here. I think it's a shootout. I just trust their defense more, and I think they're playing better football at the moment. The Lions caught some brace against Dallas, and it was a 3-point game in the fourth quarter, and they ended up winning by 2 scores, but they caught some breaks in that game. You can say I think the Rams offense, I don't think they make the same self-inflicted wounds Dallas made. So I'll go with the Rams here. The Lions do win. Their defense is going to have to play better than this. I don't think that the Lions are going to win in a shootout. They're both teams point over 30. So their defense is going to have to play better than I'm expecting it to. Maybe Stafford sloppy with the ball. There have been a couple times this season where the Lions defense has played well. So I don't know. I think it'll be difficult, but maybe they could pull it off, their defense. The offense, I think, will pull one off. It'll just come down to how their defense plays. I could see the offense for the Lions having a bit less points in this, the Rams defense playing a bit better, but I'll go with the Lions here in a close one, close shootout, 34-27, favored by 6. I don't like that. If there was like 3, I would say I would like the spread, but 6 is a bit iffy because I could see it being like a field goal game, even though I have the Rams covering, but I'll go LA 34-27 here. Indy and Seattle. Yeah, this is going to be interesting because we don't know who the hell is going to be playing quarterback for the Colts. Is it going to be Philip Rivers? I'm going to guess it is. Now, he's still signed on the practice squad. They probably want to see how he looks in practice and such before they sign him to the active roster and announce him the starter. But I don't know. Riley Leonard, maybe he gets a start in this game. If Riley Leonard does get the start in this game, I do think the Colts defense. Well, this is the keys to the Colts went off the upset. I do think their defense will play decent in this game. Seattle's offense has been inconsistent lately. I know they went off the second half of the game against the Falcons last week. Their offense has been a bit inconsistent lately. Indy's defense, even though they allowed a bunch of points last week, I feel like it's actually been playing some solid ball lately. So Indy's defense kind of against an inconsistent Seahawk offense the past few weeks. I could see Indy's defense keeping it close. It just depends on how the offense does. Now, if it's Riley Leonard, there's not really much film to base it off. I know he played pretty much 3/4 of the game last week against the Jags after Daniel Jones went down. But first full start, you're not going to really have too much film. Maybe his mobility causes some issues for Seattle. But Philip Rivers, you obviously don't have to worry about mobility. But maybe schematically, I think they keep their offense similar. Obviously, take out the mobility factor, Philip Rivers. But either way, I think Seattle's defense really limits this Indy offense. I think the main focus is going to be to shut Jonathan Taylor in the run game down and make either Philip Rivers or Riley Leonard beat them through the air. I think Seattle's defense plays good. They're going to be the reason they win the game. Like I said, I do think their offense, it'll be not to the extent of it was in Minnesota where they're settling for a bunch of field goals, sluggish game. I think it'll be a bit similar, but a bit more efficient than that in this game. Probably maybe have some couple deep shots of JSN that get some big play touchdowns or big plays, something like that, some explosive plays. But Seattle's defense, I think, wins in the game. I hope Philip Rivers starts because, like many people, I just want to see what the hell he looks like in game time. We haven't seen him since 2020. But schematically, if Philip Rivers can just play mid, I think this Colts team can just stay afloat and make the playoffs probably as a wild card. I don't think they're going to win the division. So, I don't know. Philip Rivers, if he can play anything like he did in the 2020 season with the Colts, they could be a bit dangerous. Now, he's 44. He hasn't played 4 years. So, again, that's a big if. But especially on the road in Seattle against this defense coming back, that could be a disaster. I could see Indy's offense having less success, but I wouldn't be shell-shocked if Philip Rivers starts and plays decent, or Riley Leonard if Indy pulls off the upset here. Seattle is kind of due for a loss. I know they won a couple weeks ago to the Rams. Indy's due for a win, too. That 13.5-point spread, I wouldn't bet that. They very well could cover it. but backdoor cover for the Colts could ruin it. I'll go with Seattle here for sure, 27-16. I'm just interested to see if Philip Rivers plays, what he looks like. Green Bay and Denver. So I cannot believe that the Packers are favored in this game. I thought for sure Denver would be. I actually had to double check that Green Bay was favored. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to triple check now that I have my DraftKings right next to me here. Let's see. Okay. Da, 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 da. Where the hell's the game? There it is. Yeah, Green Bay is favored by 2.5 points. On the road I am shocked that they are favored. I'm sure the lines may go down to like 1.5 by the time this game kicks off, but I can't believe that Green Bay's favored. I'm picking them though. I am picking the Packers to pull off the upset. Denver is due for a loss, and I'll obviously be rooting for the Packers as a Patriots fan. But Denver's due for a loss. They just squeaked out, not really last week, but the score was closer than the game actually was. Against the Raiders last week, but prior to that game, they're squeaking out all these close wins. How many are they going to be able to pull off in a row? Green Bay, it seems like their offense, after kind of a stuck in the mud type of streak a couple weeks ago, it seems like they figured it out. Their offense is clicking. They're very efficient. Their defense has been great all year. I love Jeff Hafley. I think he'll get some head coaching interviews for sure. I think he's done a great job coming in last year and this year for the Packers, calling their defense. Their offense is clicking. Their defense is clicking. Denver's defense has been clicking all year, obviously. The offense has been very hit or miss, it feels like. I think Denver's defense plays. I think regardless of who wins this game, it's close. I do not see either team winning by more than one score. I'd be surprised if that's the case. Borderline shocked. But I don't know. Denver's defense, I think, plays good. I think they certainly limit this Packer offense a bit, but I think some deep shots. My gut is just telling me an efficient game for the Packers offense. Denver's defense plays a tad bit less what we're used to seeing them play. And I think Green Bay's defense plays a really solid game. I think Denver gets a good amount of offense, a decent amount of offense in this game. But Green Bay, the way their defense has been playing, I just simply trust in this game. My gut is telling me the Packers offense outdoes this Denver offense a bit. And this Green Bay defense, the way it's playing against a very hit or miss Denver Bronco offense, I'm going to pick Green Bay here, 24-20. I would not touch that spread because this game can. I know I said that most of the games in this video, probably in most of my videos for the picks anyway. But this game, I'm very uneasy about it. I think Green Bay will win, but Denver very well could easily win. Their defense, I could see their defense really playing well, really limiting the Packers. Their offense, I do think Green Bay's defense plays great. If Denver does score more than 20, there's a very realistic possibility they do, but I think like at the max they score is like 26-ish points. But Denver's offense could score a bit more than this. Their defense, they play a bit better, very well could win the game. Absolutely a coin flip game for me, and I'm going to go with Green Bay. I thought I would be going with the underdog, but I'm, again, shocked that they're favored on the road here. I'll go with Green Bay 24-20, and if we can win, the Patriots clinch the division against the Bills, and then late in the afternoon, Green Bay can pull off this upset against Denver. That would be a fantastic day for Patriot fans. Titans-Niners. Niners are favored by 12.5. That's a big spread. Backdoor cover scares me, but I think they'll cover that spread. I think they're going to hammer the Titans here. I have them winning 34-17. Tennessee, again, as I was talking about with the Browns, I am shocked that not only did they win the game, but that they won it borderline a shootout, that they put up 31 points against Cleveland. And the run game got going. However, I think they actually have been playing a bit better football the past couple weeks that Jags game was a mess, but they played decent against the Seahawks too, at least compared to what they've been playing like most of the year. But they've been playing a bit better football. But last week I think was just kind of a one game thing. I don't think they'll be carrying that over. San Francisco coming off a bye. I mean, they're still competing for the division, even though it doesn't feel like it. I think they'll at least get in as a wild card, but big game for San Francisco, must win for the division. They know that. Coming off the bye against a horrible Titans team, I think they'll be very well prepared. I think the offense pops off, they go off. Their defense, I think, plays great in this game. I think they really limit this Tennessee offense. I'm very confident with the 49ers in this game. I would be shocked if the Titans won. I I actually would be surprised if this game is close. I think the Niners at least win by 2 scores. If Tennessee somehow pulls it off, I don't know, maybe the run game gets going like it did last week against Cleveland. Maybe they found something. The defense, I don't know, maybe they make it another rough game for Purdy, like a game similar to the Carolina. The special teams, maybe they get some things. Their special teams been decent lately. Maybe they get some plays to go their way. It would just be a weird game. I don't really see it happening. I'm going to go with San Francisco in a blowout 34-17 here. Sunday Night Football, Vikings and Cowboys. Interesting game here. Technically, the Vikings are still in it mathematically, but they're not going to make the playoffs barring a miracle. Dallas, technically, they're in it more than Minnesota because the division, but I don't think they're going to get it. But they need to win out if they want any chance, pretty much. Dallas knows that. They're at home. They play much better at home than they do on the road. The Cowboys do. Monday Night Football, must win. I think they're going to get the dub here. I had them winning 27-17. I think it'll be a harder than 27 points, though. This Vikings defense has been playing very well lately. They've been a bit shaky throughout the year, especially early on, but they've been playing very well lately. I think they limit Dallas's offense a decent amount, but some explosive plays and they score very quickly kind of negates that. So I have Dallas putting up a good amount of points here, but I think it's a very hard earned 27 points compared to how easy this offense at times this season has made it look when they're scoring a bunch of points. The Dallas defense, it came back down to earth. You can argue last week played horrible against Detroit after a couple games, 3 in a row, where it was playing some solid football. Except good news for them is they're playing J.J. McCarthy, who he actually looked decent last week. He did what he needed to do. They put up 31 against Washington. Now, they did get a defensive score, so I guess for 24 offensively, but McCarthy looked good. The offense looked good. However, that was against the disaster of a team this year that's Washington on the road in Dallas. I do think they'll have a decent amount of success in some drives. I have them scoring 17 points, but I just think J.J. McCarthy looks like the J.J. McCarthy we're used to seeing this season. I don't think he'll be as bad as like the Packers game McCarthy was, but I don't think he'll be nearly as good as he was last week. And like I said, if you're going to beat Dallas, I think it's going to have to be when you put up a bunch of points. I simply cannot see J.J. McCarthy outscoring Dak Prescott on the road, primetime in Dallas, in a must-win game for Dallas. I cannot see that. So while I do think the Vikings defense will play solid, probably well enough for them to win the game, I just don't see their offense replicating it. If McCarthy can play like he did last week, I think they'll have a chance, though. So I'm going to go with Dallas here to get a much-needed win. They're 5.5-point favorites. I think they'll cover that. Could be tricky, though. A bit of a risky spread, but I think they'll cover it. I'll go Dallas 27-17 here. Should be an entertaining game. And then the last game, Dolphins-Steelers, Monday Night Football. I think this is going to be a field goal fest, low scoring. I actually had a lower score than this initially, and then I changed it a bit. Both defenses, I think, are going to play well in this game. I think it's going to be a struggle for both offenses. I think Miami will move the ball a couple of drives this game, but they'll get stopped, have to settle for a bunch of field goals. Similar thing with Pittsburgh. I think they moved the ball a couple of drives. They look decent, get stuffed for field goals. But Pittsburgh, they're competing for the division. They need to win this game. They know Baltimore is right on their heels, even though they beat them. They're only a game up on Baltimore, and they play them again this season. So Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh, big game for the Steelers. That right there suggests they should win the game. Something to worth something to worth watching here. I can't say the word right. Say, is Metcalf. I think he's good to go. But he was like hospitalized, but I think he's good to go. TJ Watt randomly got hospitalized today too, a couple hours ago, so he's questionable to play. I think. Um, Hopefully he's okay there. Metcalf too, but I don't know. I think the Steelers defense plays a typical primetime in Pittsburgh Steeler defense type of game. They get the ball moved on them a decent amount. They get some sacks and Tua force a bunch of punts. The drives that they do get moved on them, they hold them to some field goals, bend don't break type of drives. And I just think their offense is going to outdo Miami's offense in this particular game. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh here. Miami, I do think their defense will play well enough for them to win the game. They're playing some solid ball lately. If they get off to a hot start, that's going to be a key for them to win the game, like they did against the Jets last week. Avoiding turnovers, sacks, getting touchdowns to the field goals in the red zone, that's going to be key for Miami. Miami's making a playoff push. They need to win out with any chance whatsoever. They need to know that. So, yeah, this is an intriguing game. I'm actually kind of excited to see this game, even though I don't think it's going to be the most entertaining game. I think it'll be a hard-fought defensive game, harder in points, typical Steeler game. I'll go with them to get the dub here. I think they just outdo Miami's offense. So they're 3.5-point favorites. That's tough because I think they'll cover it, but I have them covering it with my score prediction here, 23-19. But I know the Steelers' offense has been really bad through points of this year, so tough to bet that because they very well could win by 3. Wouldn't be shocked if Miami won. I'll go with Pittsburgh 23-19 in this one. Okay, I'm going to just double check I got all the games here. Yep. Okay, perfect. So yeah, looks like a pretty entertaining week of football. Games are going to be meaning more and more now. Obviously, that we're getting close to playoffs, so each of the teams competing for playoff positioning. It's good to have my team back in a big time division clinching hat and t-shirt type of game, compete for the 1 seed, just like the good old days with us. So good to see that. Some entertaining games this week. Fantasy playoffs in most leagues start this week. I made it in 4 of my 5 leagues. So one of them, I think I got a good chance at the championship. I'm 12-2 with the 1 seed. And we actually only played 2 rounds. So I thought I was going to get the bye, but I forgot it's only 2 rounds. So I play this week, and then if I win, I'm in the championship game next week. So, yeah, good luck in fantasy playoffs this week. Even if you're in the playoffs, you're in the loser bracket or whatever. Good luck. Hopefully you don't get last. This way your league is a punishment. Good luck with picks, betting, all that good stuff, so I always say. I will wrap this video up here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you for tuning in. Take it easy. And as always, especially this week, go Pats.